The biggest mistake of my life was believing that marriage was safe. I thought it was about love, trust, and building a future together. I thought the law was there to protect families, to keep things fair if anything went wrong. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. What I discovered is that marriage in America is not what they tell you it is. It is not the dream you see in movies or the promise you make at the altar. For men like me, it can become a nightmare you cannot wake up from, and if you think it cannot happen to you, let me tell you my story, because it could. I remember the day I said I do. The church bells, the laughter, the faces of friends and family smiling back at us. I believed I was stepping into the next chapter of a great American life. A house in the suburbs, 2 kids, summer barbecues, holiday dinners. That is what I thought marriage meant. That is what I thought I was buying into. My wife and I closed on a home with a white fence, a small yard where the kids could play. We signed a 30-year mortgage together. I worked long hours to make sure the bills were paid, while she planned family vacations and volunteered at the school. On the outside, we looked like the picture of stability. But pictures lie. The horror story began slowly, the way most nightmares do. At first it was small things. Late nights, strange phone calls, excuses that did not add up. I wanted to believe my wife was just stressed. I'm just tired. Just distracted. But the truth was uglier. She was with someone else. She was building another life while I was still paying the bills. Still showing up. Still believing in promises we made. And when I found out, when I confronted her, I thought at least the truth would set me free. I thought honesty would be my way out. But the system had other plans. Here is the part no one tells you. In America, it does not matter if your wife cheats. It does not matter if she moves in with another man. The courts do not care. They look at you, the husband, as a bank account. They look at your years of hard work, your retirement savings, your home, and they carve it up. They do not ask about loyalty or betrayal. They do not ask about who broke the vows. They ask how much you can pay, and then they tell you to pay it. That was my reality. My wife left, but the bills stayed. The house, the debts, the support payments, all of it on my shoulders. She was free to start fresh with someone else, while I was chained to monthly alimony checks that drained me of everything I had built. And let me be clear. This was not a short-term bandage. This was a lifetime sentence. Imagine working 40 years, building up a future, only to watch it siphoned away every month into the pocket of someone who betrayed you. That is marriage in America. That is the scam. I remember sitting in the courtroom, listening to the judge read numbers like he was adding up groceries. 30% of this, half of that, retirement divided, home equity gone. It felt less like justice and more like theft. Done in daylight, stamped with the approval of the law, and you cannot fight it. You cannot stand up and shout, because the system does not care about your voice. It cares about her comfort. It cares about keeping the machine running. And the machine runs on men like me. At first I thought I could fight back. I hired lawyers. I gathered evidence. I thought the truth would matter. I had proof of her infidelity. Photos, messages, witnesses. None of it mattered. The court looked at me and said, "This is not relevant." What mattered was that she was used to a certain lifestyle, and it was my job to maintain it. I became a paycheck, not a person. That was when the horror story stopped being about betrayal in my marriage, and became about betrayal by the system itself. Think about this for a moment. You work overtime shifts. You pay down the mortgage. You skip vacations to save for retirement. You do everything society told you a good husband is supposed to do. And then, when your wife decides she wants out, the system does not just let her go free. It rewards her. It punishes you, and it keeps punishing you month after month, year after year, until you realize your freedom was signed away the moment you said those 2 words at the altar. I do. If you are listening to this and thinking, that sounds extreme, that could not happen here, let me warn you. It can. And it does. Every single day in family courts across this country, men are stripped of everything while their ex walks away protected by laws that were never written with fairness in mind. You may believe your marriage is strong. You may believe your partner would never do that to you. But I believed the same. I believed I was safe. And I was wrong. So if you are a man over 45, if you have worked your whole life to build something, if you have children, savings, a home, you need to hear this. Because what happened to me can happen to you. I am not telling you this story for sympathy. I do not need pity. I am telling you this story because men need to wake up. Marriage is not a guarantee of love. Marriage is a contract with the state. And when it ends, the state does not care about your heart. It cares about money. Your money. That is the horror story. That is the scam. And if you think you are safe, you are already in danger. So listen carefully. Because the details I am about to share are not fiction. They are not exaggerated. They are not entertainment. This is my life. This is my own horror story, and every man who thinks he is immune needs to hear it. Before you sign that paper, before you walk down that aisle, before you promise forever, ask yourself one question. Are you ready to pay for the rest of your life if forever ends? The first time I walked into family court, I still had hope. I told myself the judge would see the truth. I told myself the system would protect me the way it claimed to protect families. I sat in that courtroom, clutching folders full of evidence, thinking that facts mattered. But the moment the hearing began, I realized facts had very little power here. What mattered was money. What mattered was maintaining an illusion of fairness that always seemed to tilt in her favor. My ex-wife had a lawyer who smiled like this was routine. He did not need to prove she had been faithful or honest. All he needed to prove was that she had grown accustomed to a lifestyle that my work had paid for. And suddenly, it was my responsibility to make sure she kept that lifestyle, even though she had chosen another man's arms. I listened as they described my salary, my retirement plan, my home equity, like vultures circling a carcass. Piece by piece, everything I had worked for was picked apart. By the end of that day, it was clear I was not there to tell my story. I was there to be divided. The orders came quickly. Alimony, child support, half of my retirement, half of the house. I asked about her choices, about her infidelity, about the man she was now living with. The judge waved it aside. Not relevant. Not admissible. Not important. What mattered was what she wanted. And what I could pay. That was all. The rest was just noise. And when the gavel came down, my life as I knew it ended. She left smiling. I left broken. What followed was a routine of humiliation that only men who have lived it can understand. Month after month, writing checks to a woman who betrayed me, watching my bank account drain while she took vacations with her new partner, struggling to pay my own rent while she drove a car financed with the money I earned, sitting alone at night, staring at bills, wondering how I had gone from provider to prisoner. There is no other word for it. You are chained to obligations that never end. You cannot stop paying without risking jail. You cannot renegotiate without years of legal battles. You cannot move on because the past follows you like a shadow. I tried to push back. I hired another lawyer. We filed motions, appeals, requests for modification. I thought persistence would pay off. I thought if I kept showing up with evidence, eventually someone would listen. But every time we went to court, the answer was the same. She needs support. You can pay. Case closed. It was like screaming into the wind. The system was deaf to fairness. It only heard dollars. The deeper I sank into that battle, the more I realized how powerless I was. I watched other men in the same waiting room, fathers and husbands, shaking their heads, holding envelopes of pay stubs, all of them lined up to be carved apart just like me. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Some looked like they had given up. And I understood why. Once you are inside that machine, there is no way out. It is designed to feed on you until there is nothing left. Then something changed. A lawyer I had met, a man with decades of experience, looked me in the eye and said, "You are not crazy. This system is broken." He told me he had seen countless men destroyed the same way. He told me that if I was willing to fight, he would help me. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope. Finally, someone acknowledged what I already knew. Finally, someone was willing to stand against the machine. We started building a case. He gathered evidence. He talked about strategies I had never heard before. He said there were ways to expose the abuse, the ways to push back. For weeks I felt alive again. I thought maybe I could win. I thought maybe I could reclaim some piece of my life. I stopped feeling like a paycheck and started feeling like a man again. That hope carried me through sleepless nights, through the endless grind of work and payments. Hope is a dangerous thing, but it was all I had. And then one day, he was gone. No warning. No explanation. He missed a meeting. Then another. Calls went unanswered. His office was closed. A week later, I learned he was dead. The official story said it was natural causes. But I knew better. I had seen the way he talked about the system. I had seen the fire in his eyes. He was not the kind of man to walk away. And yet, just like that, he was gone, along with my last chance to fight back. That moment broke something inside me. It was not just losing a lawyer. It was losing the belief that justice was possible. If even he could not survive standing up to the machine, what chance did I have? I remember sitting in my car in the courthouse parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, feeling like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I was alone again. The system had swallowed another man, and I was next. From that day forward, the fight ended, not because I wanted it to, but because there was nothing left to fight with. I kept working. I kept paying. I kept breathing. But the part of me that believed in fairness, that believed in truth, that part was dead. What remained was a shell that moved through the motions of life, drained of trust, drained of belief. That is what marriage had done to me. That is what the system had created. A man stripped of more than money. A man stripped of faith. And this is why I call it a horror story, because it does not just take your finances. It takes your hope. It takes your dignity. It takes the years you will never get back. Men need to understand this. Marriage in America is not a sanctuary. It is a contract with the state. And when that contract breaks, the state will come for you. They will not care about your story. They will not care about your truth. They will only care about what you can provide. And when you run out, they will move on to the next man. That is the scam. That is the machine. That is the reality you need to face before it is too late. When a man loses faith, it does not happen all at once. It dies slowly, piece by piece, like a candle flickering out in the wind. That is what happened to me. I did not wake up one morning and decide marriage was a scam. I arrived there after years of bleeding out. Every check I wrote to her name. Every hour I worked to replace what was taken. Every time I looked at my children and felt like a visitor in their lives. All of it chipped away at me until there was nothing left to believe in. That is how men are broken. Not in one strike, but in 1,000 cuts. Even now, people ask me if I still believe in love. And the truth is complicated. Love might still exist. I have seen older couples walking hand in hand at the park. And I know not every marriage ends like mine. But what I know with certainty is that the system that surrounds marriage in this country is built to punish men. It is built to reward betrayal, to strip providers, to keep the machine fed. You can love someone with your whole heart. But the moment you involve the state, you are no longer in control. The contract you sign is not with your wife. It is with the government. And when the bond breaks, the government does not care about your pain. It cares about your wallet. I think often about the years I lost. The birthdays I missed because I was working overtime to cover payments. The nights alone in a small apartment while my ex lived comfortably in the house we bought together. The sense of failure that hung over me like a storm cloud. For men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, time is not infinite. Every year matters. Every season matters. And once it is gone, you do not get it back. That is what the system stole from me. Not just money, but time. And time is the most expensive thing you can lose. You might expect me to say, I regret ever getting married. But the truth is more painful. I regret not understanding what marriage really was in this country. I regret believing that vows were stronger than laws. I regret thinking that the courts cared about right and wrong. If I had known what I know now, maybe I would have protected myself. Maybe I would have kept my finances separate. Maybe I would have waited. Maybe I would have asked harder questions before signing a contract that could end up costing me everything. The real horror story is not that she betrayed me. It is that I betrayed myself by being blind. So, what do I want men to learn from this? Not to hate women. Not to swear off love. But to open their eyes. To understand that marriage is not just a promise. It is a legal trap. To realize that once you step into that courtroom, you are no longer a husband or a father. You are a source of income. And the system does not care how much it costs you to keep paying. It only cares that you keep paying. There were nights when I wanted to give up. Nights when I sat staring at the ceiling, wondering if life was even worth it. But I am still here. I survived. And survival taught me something. You cannot rely on the system to protect you. You cannot rely on the courts to give you justice. You cannot even rely on vows to keep someone loyal. The only thing you can rely on is yourself. Your strength, your foresight, your willingness to see the truth before it crushes you. That is what keeps you alive when the rest of the world turns against you. When I walk through my neighborhood now, I see young couples moving into new homes, smiling, holding hands, full of dreams. I want to stop them. I want to tell them to slow down. I want to tell them to read every line of the contract they are about to sign. Because it is not just romance. It is not just a wedding. It is a legal arrangement with consequences they cannot imagine. I want to shake them awake before they end up sitting where I am, broken and bitter, warning the next generation not to repeat the same mistakes. The conclusion I have reached is not one of hope. It is one of caution. Men need to wake up. They need to see the machine for what it is. Marriage, as it exists in America today, is not built to protect them. It is built to feed off them. And if you think love will save you, I am living proof that it will not. Love does not matter in a courtroom. Promises do not matter in a courtroom. All that matters is money. And once you are inside that system, money is the only language that counts. If you are a man listening to this, take my story as a warning. Do not be blinded by tradition. Do not be seduced by ceremonies. Do not let yourself believe that you are safe just because you mean your vows. I meant mine too. And I still lost everything. Protect yourself. Guard your future. Question everything. Because the cost of not asking the right questions is a lifetime of regret. A lifetime of working for someone who abandoned you. A lifetime of being punished for believing in something that was never real to begin with. My horror story is not unique. It is happening to thousands of men across this country every day. Men who thought they were safe. Men who thought marriage was about love. Men who are now paying for the rest of their lives. You might think it will not happen to you. You might think your situation is different. So did I. And now here I am, telling you the truth. Marriage is a scam. And unless you protect yourself, you might be the next man living this nightmare. That is the resolution of my story. Not a happy ending. Not a redemption arc. Just the truth. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as it was designed. And until men understand that, until they stop believing in fairy tales, the machine will keep turning, and more lives will be fed into it. I cannot stop it, but I can warn you. And maybe that warning will save someone else from becoming the next chapter in this endless horror story. So I leave you with this. Before you say yes, before you sign your name, before you give your life to a contract you do not understand, ask yourself if you are ready. Ask yourself if you can afford the price. Because if you cannot, and if you step into it blindly, you might end up where I am now. Alone, drained, but still standing. Telling the world the one truth I learned too late. Marriage, in this country, is not love. It is not family. It is not forever. It is a scam. And this has been my horror story.